Good morning, friends. Good morning, patriots. Good morning, lovers of liberty, observers of reality. It begins. It begins again. A very good morning to you here from the Republic of Ireland, and for those of you tuning in all around. I hope you're having a great and blessed day so far. A couple of stories to touch and bring into your attention this morning to follow up with Dave's thesis and what we spoke about last night on the Great Recess. An interesting article from Brendan O'Neill over on Spiked, and news reaching us today that President Trump has declassified the whole Russiagate scenario, all the documentation on the Pfizergate warrants that we've been speaking about here for many, many years. Just going to throw this one up here for you now. President Trump tweeted late last night, "I have fully authorized the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the single greatest political crime in American history, the Russian hoax. Likewise, the Hillary Clinton email scandal, no redactions." That is startling news. If you're unaware of that, the connections between the DNC and Russia has all laid bare. The fraudulent Pfizer applications that were forged in order to spy on Carter Page, which then opened up all communications in the Trump campaign during his election. You remember he came out and said that he was being spied upon. Well, it's coming to light now. Not that we've not already known it for quite some time, but it is about to be exposed in all its glory. So, with the declassification of the all the documents pertaining, as President Trump says, to the greatest crime in American history, which the mainstream media will not touch right up until the very last death, and I am particularly looking forward to the Hillary Clinton email scandal. That will be something to behold. I say to you, before we get going, please don't forget our friends over at the Little Farm. We love our enzymes so much, we keep them alive. Wheatgrass and barley grass mighty shot. Small wonder they're so good. One wheatgrass shot is equivalent to 1 kilogram of your leafy green veg. Barley grass juice, full of antioxidants. Just shake and shoot. Don't forget to enter in your promo code GT over there for your substantial discount. Checking in with you in Telegram. Great to see Dave Mack, Emma, Margaret Rooney, and Erica Sauce. And the one and only Jazzy also in there joining us this morning. And over on Facebook and Periscope. Good morning, Silmiata and Mary Byrne Forsyth. Good morning, Mary Byrne Forsyth. Oh, lack a day, forsooth. Forsyth, keep it up. Good morning to Mary Donahue as well, also joining us over there. Good morning, Dylan. Let's throw a few of them up there to you as well. And from our friend Mary Byrne Forsyth. Good morning, Martha. Great to see you. Also, Young Healy in the house. Our good friend Stephen O'Kane joining us over on Periscope as well. Keeping an eye on all things D Live. A couple of questions asked this morning where we are streaming live from Facebook, Periscope, and D Live is live. And then we upload to the YouTube straight directly after the show. Great to see you too, Nikki. Great to see you. Thanks for joining me there this morning. Like I said, I really and Jeannie Scott and Nikki Petru, Nikki from Cyprus in the house. Great to see you over there on Facebook as well. Good morning, lovers of liberty, and James. James, how could I forget? Great to see you. Thank you for joining in there as well. Let me give Big JJ a shout out over there, keeping us informed of all things Australia and Tasmania. Great to see you, JJ. And for those of you joining in into the live chat afterwards, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Okay, let's get into the first of two articles. Like I said, we're going to keep these broadcasts to a compassionate 30 minutes so that we can upload it straight away for the show and keep everybody abreast of what's happening while we remain in the naughty corner. Gran Torino is in the naughty corner for the foreseeable future. I'm hoping, and I'm still in negotiations with the gulag machine that it is, to see if we can get our live stream capabilities brought back this morning. I don't know about you, I had numerous intel drops, particularly pertaining, and I will put a shout out because the person is unknown. But there was a particular voicemail that was sent out on the social media channels pertaining to schools in Mayo. And it was from one of our Polish sisters, believe it or not, in their circle group. I do have the conversation. I do want to post it, but I really would like to get a hold of it. I'm sure those of you in the Mayo region that know of the piece that I'm speaking about, I am offering for that lady to come on and share her insights to what is happening in the schools over in Mayo. Might touch upon it again later on this evening if I do manage to get a hold of it, or I will play the voicemail message. What is happening, what is alleged to be happening in the schools in Mayo, probably around the country as well, that you're not being spoken about as parents. And I remind you of what we spoke about with the World Health Organization, saying that your child's attendance at school is tacit consent. Now that means, and I want to allude, this is not yet confirmed, but I want to allude to the fact that some schools, as it stands over in Mayo, are saying that if the parents do not collect the child within 30 minutes, that they will have consent to initiate or give them a vaccination without parental consent. And it also ties in with the sex education as well of schools. Now with the children as young as 12 being able to visit their doctors and be put on hormone blockers without parental consent yet again, or the parents' knowledge, and the doctor does not have to inform the parents. I'm awaiting confirmation on all of that. As we are distracted by all this, the great reset that is unfolding before our eyes, in the background, the education system has not stopped to put and to try and capture young minds into school. That to me, and we've already had confirmed that the hormone blockers that the children are put on are irreversible. Irreversible. This is so untoward. It's absolutely damning if this is to go ahead, that we allow children of 12 years of age to go ahead and perform and carry out, under medical supervision, life-changing, catastrophic medication, shall we say. But I want to push it back and keep our eye on the schools. What is being said in the social media circles is that schools are using the child's attendance as consent to give them the live vaccination. And those parents that do not wish their child to have the vaccination or have some concerns over the vaccination rollout, please contact your local principal. Please contact your TD. But most importantly, inform your child that if any situation arises, that they are not, without your permission, to do anything to them while they're at school until you are in attendance. Okay, let us jump straight into the first of the articles I want to bring up. And we'll start off with Brendan over on Spiked in the United Kingdom, as they are talking about the fines, the new COVID fines that could destroy your life in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, they can have fines of up to 4,000. Already, some fines are being touted here in the Republic of Ireland, with up to a €50 fine for wearing of the mask incorrectly, and that will only escalate. That is going to go up and up. This will destroy people's livelihoods if you're indeed caught to wear a fine, on the spot fine. But it's already rolling out over here. Speaking about it, let me jump into this article here with Brendan. Oh, we seem to have stopped the share. I'll just start that up there again. The new COVID fines. The new COVID fines could destroy your life. Fines of up to 4,000 can be handed out on the spot to anyone who fails to self-isolate. Individuals who break the new coronavirus self-isolation regulations, this is in the United Kingdom, face fines of up to 1,000. Worse, if an quote, authorized person considers you were reckless in coming into contact with someone, the fine can become a crushing £4,000. The rules apply to anyone who has tested positive for COVID-19 or who has come into close contact with someone who has tested positive. In any year, 1,000 or 4,000 fines are enough to break most UK households financially. But this is a year of rising unemployment, salary cuts, and businesses running at half-mast. The ONS data shows that the average disposable income after tax and benefits was €30,000 year before the lockdown. For the poorest fifth of Brits, this was just 13,100. Even prior to the current recession, the deepest in modern times, disposable income was falling by more than 4% each year. Some will believe that these new fines are appropriate to deter people from breaking self-isolation and endangering others. Can't afford it? Don't break the rules. I'm sure that YouGov could find a sizable chunk of people who think that fines don't go far enough. But these are serious issues here of proportionality and fairness. The police have never before had the power to issue such large fines to individuals, and there are good reasons for this. Normally, fixed penalty notices are £100 to £200. For example, driving distracted could land you a 100 on-the-spot fine. The fine can only be higher, increasing up to 5,000 if it is issued by a court. To keep fines within people's means, some are linked to salary, typically limited to 50 or 75% of a weekly wage. But a 4,000 fine would be staggering. 16 weeks salary for someone in the bottom fifth of earnings. There is simply no equivalent in modern Britain to the self-isolation fines. They have more in common with the Weir Guild and blood money of the Dark Ages than any modern-day fixed penalty notice. Recklessly leaving self-isolation and potentially transmitting the virus will cost you about the same as murdering a non-prospering Welshman would have in the 9th century. Welcome to neo-feudal justice. These fines have been set in order to put the fear of God into people. 1,000 is enough to ruin most households' income for a year. Stephen Jackson, solicitor at Jackson Osborne, tells me. Jackson set up Law or Fiction, a website which helps citizens to understand their legal rights during the lockdown. Not a bad idea, some would say, for us to have a website up and running that can lay out quite clearly people's rights in accordance to the lockdown legislation. The real issue, he says, is that the level of these fines is simply unaffordable for the vast majority. How many people have 4,000 in their bank account ready to pay within 28 days? A court will decide whether to imprison them for failure or to pay, or whether to issue a further notice for payment over a longer period of time. It's disproportionate. So what counts as reckless? According to the regulations, it appears to be entirely for the authorized person to decide. And who is the authorized person? It could be a police officer, a public health officer, or it could be anyone designated by the local authority. You can see, can you feel it, that they're pushing up, they're bringing in the kulaks, giving more and more power to untrained people who can arbitrarily, at their will and whim, destroy your livelihood. As Jackson points out in his explanation of the regulations, it could be a traffic warden redeployed as a COVID marshal, for God's sake. Does this person with a clipboard care about the balance of harms at play here? He or she will individually wield the power to ruin someone financially. Will the authorized person have a target number or fines to issue, as other officials sometimes do? At a time when local authorities are on the brink of bankruptcy, fixed penalty notices could be quite an ironer. We can always hope that these authorized persons will exercise sensible discretion and compassion, but the behavior of the authorities has not always been edifying during the pandemic so far. In an environment in which ministers have been asked the British public to snitch on their neighbours, and police have already fined businesses for the tiniest breaches of the curfew laws, it looks as if there is a desire to flex these punitive muscles. Last week marked the 20th anniversary of the Human Rights Act. In the same week, these new self-isolation regulations came into force. Arguably, they could go against Article 5 of the Human Rights Act, which is supposed to protect an individual's freedom from unreasonable detention. The Act does contain an exemption for those capable of spreading an infectious disease, but given the unreliability of the COVID-19 tests and the fact that COVID is not a serious disease for the vast majority of people, this exemption seems pretty unreasonable in this case. We know that PCR tests are incredibly sensitive. And given COVID's low prevalence in the population at this stage of the pandemic, a significant number of results could be false positives. As Jackson says, how can people be detained in their homes with no excuse and access to medical services on the basis of such a test. These fines have no relation to culpability or harm, he argues. People are being deprived of their liberty based on a test result that may be wrong, and there is no right to ask for a second test to confirm the result. We need to be clear about this. It's not self-isolation if it's enforced on pain of a 1,000 or 4,000 fine. It's incarceration. Absolutely. Let me drop that up there. And let me bring in the live chat, or the Telegram members, just to show you the conversation happening over there. I think it's that one there, yeah. And we'll pop that up there. We've got Stargirl D, also Emma, Margot Rooney, just chatting away there, to name a few. Big time talk about the military rolling out the vaccine for Margaret, absolutely. And talk of that over here as well. Stargirl says the UK is turning into communist China, absolutely. I've just heard a lot of the Gardaí on the road in places as we are bumbling and stumbling towards our own set of lockdowns while our politicians decide whether to put us all on level 3 of the lockdown. Apologies for the sun. Not apologies for the sun, but it's kicking in over there. Pull back a little bit out of the way there. Young Healy, he talks. What we got there over on Facebook? Let's have a look. See, can't watch Leo's comments on the big show with Tommy Bow and Ortiz last night are worth the listen. He said the cyber world is a real world. Let me just throw that up there. Leo's comments on the show with Tommy Bow and Ortiz last night are worth the listen. He said the cyber world is real world and the digital transformation is taking place. Also, he was on about the companies paying much more tax than the Irish small business. Probably. I'm going to fix that a little bit down in the corner there. The sun just broke through the window there. Starting beautiful day here in the Republic of Ireland. I hope it's well where you are too. See if I can clear that up a wee bit, which I did. Excuse me. And that's going to bring me over onto the second of today's articles in relation to the Great Reset. Xurious over on Periscope as well. Just reminders, if you're aware of this interview, please watch and retweet We Are Vaxxed. We Are Vaxxed was live. Orange man bad, Xurious. Orange man bad. And Hillary, dear Hillary, I'm sad. I'm usually with my grandchildren in the UK in October. Sorry to hear that, Hillary. Huge breakup for a lot of us, a lot of fractured relationships. I know that in my personal circles, and I know, speaking to a great many of you, that there's a great fracture from many people, particularly with the vaccination people and the rollout of the vaccination going on. Some people saying that they are taking it, some that they aren't. It's quite a fraught and fraudulent. It is a fraudulent time, but it is fraught with emotion as people come to their own conclusions whether to take the vaccine or not. But we haven't been simply given the airspace to have a decent conversation or the discourse in the public arena so that we can all voice our opinions and our concerns. Let me just prop that up there. And application window. Why have we got this? The new COVID finds your entire screen. Sorry, I'm just getting with the bells and whistles. Let's share this one up here for what is going on now. We'll have that one there. Thank you. Oh, the sun is a little bit distracting, but it is what it is. Maybe close the window over next time, GT. And I finish up as we come up on the 19-minute mark. I want to finish up with this article from the Mises organization. I don't know if you're following any of Mises, Edward von Mises of the Mises Institute. Those of you following on his economic. Let me just get rid of that sun for a second. My apologies. Yeah, we'll have to get out and about in amongst the sunshine there today. And I encourage you, go out there and get your dose of vitamin D. Apologies for that. Let's jump straight into this article. From Lockdowns to the Great Reset by Anthony P. Mueller. From the Mises.org. And I will share this link to you over on Facebook. And I'll post them in the description box for those of you over at YouTube viewing and joining us after the fact for the grand upload or the grand restream. The lockdown in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic has accelerated the implementation of long-held plans to establish a so-called New World Order. Under the auspices of the World Economic Forum, global policymakers are advocating for a Great Reset with the intent of creating a global technocracy. It is not by coincidence that on October 18, 2019, in New York City, the WEF participated in Event 201 at the high-level pandemic exercise organized by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. And many of you will be aware, many people have spoken about that as it was a prelude to everything that we are seeing happening before us now. Pretty much like 9/11, there was an exercise going on and then it became real. Now we've had this pandemic, there was an exercise going on and now it's being turned to be live. But we must push back, and we are pushing back against this global overreach. This coming technocracy involves close cooperation between the heads of digital industry, and I just made note there that Leo already pushing the line out about the great behemoth. Good morning, Elaine Carberry jumping in on Facebook. The coming technocracy involves close cooperation between the heads of digital industry and of governments. With programs such as guaranteed minimum income and healthcare for all, the new kind of governance combines strict societal control with the promise of comprehensive social justice. The truth, however, is that the New World Order of digital tyranny comes with a comprehensive social credit system. The People's Republic of China is the pioneer of this method of surveillance and control of individuals, corporations, and socio-political entities. For the individual, one's identity is reduced to an app or a chip that registers almost any personal activity. In order to gain a few individuals' rights, and be it only to travel to a certain place, a person must balance such apparent privileges with his submissions to a web of regulations that define in detail what is, quote, good behavior and deemed as beneficial to humankind and the environment. For example, during a pandemic, this sort of control would extend from the obligation of wearing a mask and practicing social distancing to having specific vaccinations in order to apply for a job or to travel. It is, in short, a type of social engineering, which is the opposite of a spontaneous order or of development. Like the mechanical engineer with a machine, the social engineer or technocrat treats society as an object. Different from the brutal suppressions of the totalitarianism of earlier times, the modern social engineer will try to make the social machine work on its own accord, according to the design. For this purpose, the social engineer must apply the law of society the way the mechanical engineer follows the laws of nature. Behavioral theory has reached the stage of knowledge that makes the dreams of social engineering possible. The machinations of social engineering operate not through brute force, but subtly by a nudge. Under the order of envisioned by the Great Reset, the advancement of technology is not meant to serve the improvement of the conditions of the people, but to submit the individual to the tyranny of a technocratic state. Quote, the experts know better is the justification. And we are living it, and we are proof pudding of that right in the middle of it here now. The agenda. The plan for an overhaul of the world is the brainchild of an elite group of businessmen, politicians, and their intellectual entourage that used to meet in Davos, Switzerland in January each year. Brought into existence in 1971, the World Economic Forum has become a mega global event since then. More than 3,000 leaders from all over the world attending the meeting in 2020. Under the guidance of the WEF, the agenda of the Great Reset says that the completion of the current industrial transformation requires a thorough overhaul of economies, politics, and society. Such a comprehensive transformation requires the alteration of human behavior, and thus transhumanism is part of the program. The Great Reset will be the theme for the 51st meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2021. Its agenda is the commitment to move the world economy forward, a quote, more fair, sustainable, and resilient future. The program calls for a new social contract that is centered on racial equality, social justice, and the protection of nature. Climate change requires us to decarbonize the economy and to bring human thinking and behavior into harmony with nature. The aim is to build more equal, inclusive, and sustainable economies. The New World Order must be urgently implemented, the promoters of the WEF claim, and they point out that the pandemic has laid bare the unsustainability of our system, which lacks social cohesion. The WEF's Great Research Project is social engineering at the highest level. Advocates of the Reset contend that the UN failed to establish order in the world and could not advance forcefully its agenda of sustainable development, known as Agenda 2030. Because of its bureaucratic, slow, and contradictory way of working. In contrast, the actions of the Organizational Committee of the World Health Forum are swift and smart. When a consensus has been formed, it can be implemented by the global elite all over the world. Social engineering. The ideology of the World Economic Forum is neither left nor right, nor progressive or conservative. It is not fascist or communist, but outright technocratic. As such, it includes many elements of earlier collectivist ideologies. In recent decades, the consensus has emerged at the annual Davos meetings that the world needs a revolution and that reforms have taken too long. The members of the WEF envision a profound upheaval at short notice. The time span should be so brief that most people will hardly realize that a revolution is going on. The change must be so swift and dramatic that those who recognize that a revolution is happening do not have time to mobilize against it. The basic idea of the Great Reset is the same principle that guided the radical transformations from the French to the Russian and Chinese revolutions. It is the idea of constructivist rationalism incorporated in the state. But projects like the Great Reset leave unanswered the question of who rules the state. The state itself does not rule. It is an instrument of power. It is not the abstract state that decides, but the leaders of specific political parties and of certain social groups. Earlier totalitarian regimes needed mass executions and concentration camps to maintain their power. Now, with the help of new technologies, it is believed dissenters can be easily identified and marginalized. The nonconformists will be silenced by disqualifying divergent opinions as morally despicable. Let me read that again because that is most pertinent paragraph. Earlier totalitarian regimes needed a mass executions and concentration camps to maintain their power. Now, with the help of new technologies, it is believed dissenters can easily be identified and marginalized. The nonconformists will be silenced by disqualifying divergent opinion as morally despicable. The 2020 lockdowns possibly offer a preview of how this system works. The lockdowns worked as if it had been orchestrated, and perhaps it was, as if following a single command. The leaders of big and small nations and of different stages of economic development implemented almost identical measures. Not only did many governments act in unison, they also applied three measures with little regard for the horrific consequences of a global lockdown. Months of economic stillstand have destroyed the economic basis of millions of families. Together with social distancing, the lockdown has produced a mass of people unable to care for themselves. First, governments destroyed the livelihood. Then the politicians showed up as the savior. The demand for social assistance is no longer limited to specific groups, but has become a need of the masses. Once, war was the health of the state. Now it is fear of disease. What lies ahead is not the apparent coziness of a benevolent, comprehensive welfare state with a guaranteed minimum income and a healthcare and education for all. The lockdown and its consequences have brought a foretaste of what is to come: a permanent state of fear, strict behavioral control, massive loss of jobs, and a growing dependence on the state. With the measures taken in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, a big step to reset the global economy has been made. Without popular resistance, the end of the pandemic will not mean the end of the lockdown and social distancing. At the moment, however, the opponents of the New World Order of digital tyranny still have access to the media and platforms to dissent, yet the time is running out. The perpetrators of the New World Order have smelled blood, declaring the coronavirus a pandemic has come in handy to promote the agenda of their great reset. Only a massive opposition can slow down and finally stop the extensions of the power grip of the tyrannical technocracy that is on the rise. That article just puts our position clearly laid out for all to bear. While we still have access to these social media platforms, while the likes of Dave, the Don, Critiqued, anybody else, I'm after forgetting a few of the other names. My apologies to all you that I'm forgetting as well. There's so many of us out there doing sterling work, Trojan work, putting our shoulder to the wheel and pushing back against this as hard as we can and getting everybody involved and everybody to push back with what little information at the very onset. This pandemic, this virus has waylaid has waylaid and opened up how our government does not work for the benefit of the Irish people. And that is all people on the island. If you are happy enough and are screaming for your incarceration because you believe that this pandemic, where there would be millions, thousands of bodies lined up on the streets if it was a proper pandemic, but you are being coerced, you are being tricked into compliance. And because you are so stuck in groupthink, you are going to fall along with this plan because you're being placated with plastic football on the television or plastic golf tournaments, or you're a mealy-mouthed allowed to go back to the pub for 1 hour and eat a meal. And it's all crack agus kill because you're going into your little she-beans in the garages with friends, or you're able to have it here. But that time will pass. Mass dissension, a mass taking to the streets is the only thing that will slow this government down. And I am speaking to you now, be it on the 10th or any future rallies or protests of dissension against this government tyrannical overreach of power. We must take to the streets. While now is the time where there is still a level of civility between the state and its citizens, even though that is eroding right in front of your very eyes, take to the streets and build the numbers. There does no need to be for violence. It is peaceful protest, but allow them to see your numbers. A great many of us will be blinded by the propaganda that the virus, although it is a real virus, it is not the pandemic that we are being told, that we are being force-fed through RTE, through the fear porn and the constant reminding through every shop as it repeats, protect each other, stay safe, do your bit, stay safe, protect each other. No, push back against this, refuse to wear the mask, look after your children in the schools, protect each other, and at the very least, organize in your communities, organize to those around you, those that are of a similar mind, and take to the streets, whether you like the people that are organizing it or not. It's time to stick your head out of the sand and attend. If you will attend in mass numbers because of the water demonstrations, because they were going to pull they were going to pull some paper from your pocket. They've already done it. The water meters have gone in quietly behind your back, and that was all the full help of the left who have lied, and who are bringing in not only this world top-down authoritarian control, but they are bringing in educational standards to inform your children about the consent with adults, which is craziness, that they can go and change their biology under the surgeon's knife, while a GP can obfuscate and pump them full of drugs because they walk around like Formula One drivers. They are so sponsored by Big Pharma. 150 quid a test, 200 quid a test, queues out the door for tests. That's big money for them. And even if you didn't take the test, you're still being proof positive or tested positive. It's an absolute nonsense. It's an absolute joke. And I say to you and those of you viewing in, and those that are in the live chat, I know you are on board, but work harder, spread the message, be positive, remain remain in, what is the word I always say? Remain positive is what I'm saying in all things. Remain positive. Keep pushing through. I know your relationships are getting fractured. I know that people are breaking up. Families are breaking up. But now so more than ever, don't let their ignorance let the rest of us go down this tyrannical, despotic path that our state is choosing from us. We, the people, have the power. We, the people, have the power. Just by our sheer scale in numbers, we will drown them in our urine. I've said this time and time again. Take to the streets, peacefully protest. Whether you are for and against it, bring us all out that these lockdown measurements are not working and the government is working off, at worst, incorrect material, at the best, fraudulent, and it needs to be. Inquiries will be held and people will be held for personal liability. I remind you, those of you on the front line that will be administering drugs, you will be held personally responsible. Not the government, not an insurance company, you and teachers who are Marxist apparatchiks who are bombarding children with fear and treating them. You are marking the next generation of our future. You are scarring them into be compliant little servants for the state because you are training this in there because of your indoctrination in your time. Use your critical thinking. Show some empathy. These children are getting facial infections. These children are scared out of their mind and are elderly in the nursing homes, head behind locked cages. I know I keep banging on it about a locking drum, but if I ever got the chance, I would shame each and every one of you. You know what I mean by shame. Shame doesn't mean that you are cast out society. Shame means that you are. I'm not going to let myself get carried away. Like chat, we've gone well past our allotted time for this morning, 36 minutes. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me this morning. And again, before I let you go, before we do a quick roll call, please don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscription button if you're new to the show, and please leave your thoughts, comments, and witticisms in the comment section below. We do love to read them. Big shout out to you and a big thank you to each and every one of you sharing these on your platforms. It's through those sharings that is keeping us prevalent in people's recommended lists and keeping the numbers ticking along. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your continued support. As always, over at the Grand Torino website, World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie/donations. Also, links in the description box for Subscribestar and Ko-fi, and also links to our merchandise for Teesprings and all of you making purchases over there, particularly the Handsome Mug. The Handsome Mug is doing particularly well. Really appreciate that. Make sure you get yours for your workplace tea breaks, so you have your Handsome Mug there in front of you. And last but not least, our PO Box 13179. If you're in the mood to send us a snail mail or a mail, and appreciate getting through them as well. Please join the conversation as well over on the Telegram link. If you're not using the Telegram link, I fully recommend it to you as well. Very good encrypted messenger application, and I believe it might have streaming capabilities at the front. There's already we're working our way up towards our first 100 members as it builds up slowly, the Telegram channel. We've had previous iterations of it before. But before I let you go, big shout out to Éire, Xurious, Margaret Rooney, Stargale D, to name but a few. And over on the comment section on Facebook and Periscope, we have Pid Min, Jenny O'Driscoll, great to see you, Jenny, Millie Carlin, Ian Botherton, and Eamon Sullivan. Short little roll call there for us, as we are on a reduced scale since we have been removed from live chat capabilities. But we press on, we soldier on, we march on like each and every one of us. Pick yourself up, keep going, but take to the streets, organize. Let's get organized. Can't say it enough. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you later on this evening, and hopefully I'll have a surprise guest on this evening, someone to join me over there. Jane, speak to you all. Maybe tomorrow morning we'll open up the channel and we'll talk to you all then. Till then, have a great, blissful day. Have a useful day. Have a productive day. Get out there and do something. Take care. Talk to you then. Us.